It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. What's up, Hive fam? Welcome back to the Hint Hive, amplifying women's voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, Queen Bee of this Hive, your badass feminist life coach and psychotherapist here to help you live your truth unapologetically with a little sparkle. Now, last week we unpacked the harmful effects of toxic positivity, this good vibes only nonsense that tells us we're not allowed to feel the full range of human emotions. I mean, how dare we feel sad, angry, or overwhelmed, right? Wrong. So wrong. Toxic positivity erases our humanity, and that's not what we're about here in the Hint Hive. This week, we are flipping the script. We're diving into how to practice gratitude and positivity in a way that uplifts you instead of gaslighting you. But let's be real. Gratitude and positivity can be powerful tools for healing and growth. The trick is learning how to wield them without losing sight of what's real. So grab your favorite drink, tea, coffee, wine, kombucha, whatever your jam is, and let's do this. Okay, before we jump in, let's address the elephant in the room. I may sound a little bit different than usual, and it's because I'm very, very sick. And the choice I had was do this episode sick or don't do any episodes, and we would be without the Hint Hive podcast until the beginning of the year. And I didn't want to do that. So if this is your first time listening, I'm sorry that this is your experience and that you are hearing me croak a little bit. But I know that there are listeners out there who would rather hear me croak into a microphone than not get their weekly dose of empowerment. So there's that. And given that I'm sick, I may have to cut this episode a little short. I don't know yet. We're going to see how I'm doing. But as somebody living with lupus, I can tell you that when a normal, healthy person gets sick and it lasts for 3 days, when I get that same sickness, it could last a month or two. So I did not want to put the podcast on hiatus for that long. So I'm going to forge ahead. All right. So first things first, let's clarify something. Positivity itself is not the enemy. Toxic positivity is. Because toxic positivity says ignore your pain, focus on the good. Healthy positivity, on the other hand, says, hey, life's messy. Let's find the good while we honor the struggle. The difference? One shoves your feelings under the rug. The other pulls up a chair and says, feel what you need to feel, and when you're ready, let's look for some light. Let me give you a specific example. Say that you are dealing with a really tough breakup. Toxic positivity looks like someone saying, just be grateful you had the experience. Everything happens for a reason. Ugh, don't you just want to scream when you hear that? Now, healthy positivity sounds a little more like this. I see how much this hurts. This is hard, and it's okay to be upset. When you're ready, let's talk about what this taught you and what you want and deserve moving forward. See the difference? One dismisses your pain. The other validates it and gives you space to grow. Now, I know that there are people out there, myself included, who are trying to focus a little bit more on gratitude and trying to be more positive in our lives. Because to be very honest, the world doesn't feel like a safe and or positive place for many people right now. And so one of the ways that I'm trying to deal with that personally is to bring a little bit more gratitude into my life. But as a therapist, I know that I need to validate what I'm feeling, but not wallow in the negativity. And that's where trying to have a positive outlook comes into play. But again, as a therapist, I know that there's a balance between all of this. It's not like the good vibes only is such a great catchphrase, but it's so incredibly invalidating, right? And apologies, I cannot remember the example I used in last week's episode because I actually recorded that a little while ago. But like when we're grieving, a lot of times people try to make us feel better by saying things that end up invalidating our feelings. And this doesn't mean that you're being a negative person if you're experiencing your feelings. It means you're being human because you're experiencing your feelings. But the important piece is that we've got to get up and move forward. And that's where some of us have maybe in our pasts had a tendency to wallow a little bit in the negative or really focus on the negative. And so you're trying like really hard to be a more positive person. That's something that I've been trying to work on pretty much my entire life, making lemonade out of lemons. But for me, it can be a challenge to do that. So when I have someone tell me, oh, just be grateful this, or, oh, just be grateful that, you know what? I am. You don't know what I'm grateful for and what I'm not grateful for. And so when people are very dismissive like that, it sets me back a little bit. And I actually get more negative when people try to tell me that I can't feel my feelings and to just look on the bright side. Sometimes there's no bright side in a certain situation. Sometimes we just have to feel the feeling, but then get out of that negative spiral and focus on what we are grateful for. For example, this year, I dealt with a trauma that I never thought that I would have to deal with. And if I was being negative and pessimistic, my life would look a lot different than what it does now. I used positivity and gratitude to help me clarify what I wanted to do moving forward after this traumatic event. And I'm not going to talk about this specific trauma. It is nobody's business but mine, and anyone else involved in it. And so I will not be disclosing that, but I bring it up only to say that there may be people who, if they knew about this event, they would not like the way I'm handling it. They would want me to have different action steps. But it's not their life to live. It's mine. You're not paying my bills. You're not providing me a house to live in. Like I'm doing that. So I will decide my actions moving forward. It's my life to live. You're not living it for me. And so that's actually one of the reasons why people don't know about what happened, because I don't want to hear other people's feedback. I am choosing instead to connect with people that understand the scenario and do not judge my actions because of it. And if I was having a hard time processing through this trauma, I absolutely 100% would seek professional help. I would either see a coach or a therapist. Actually, given that it was a traumatic event, I would see a therapist if I needed to. But I'm not there. I'm not in that place. And it's part of it is because as a therapist, I understand the importance of positivity and gratitude, but I also allowed myself to feel the feelings. I allowed myself to feel the devastation, the horror, the terror, the depression, sadness, betrayal, all of it. Like, I allowed myself to feel the feelings, but then I said, okay, so these are the feelings. What are the actions? What am I going to do about this? Do I need to do anything about it? What am I grateful for? I'm not grateful for the situation. I can tell you that right now, but I'm grateful for how I handled it and how I, instead of being reactive to something, I took the time to feel my feelings and feel what was underneath the surface feelings, and then make a decision how I was going to move forward. And that made a huge difference in my life, because if I had just been reactive, I would have made some poor decisions. If I had engaged in toxic positivity, it is quite likely that this trauma would be repeated, and that's not okay. So I think it's really important to have that balance. And of course, I'm going to say that I'm a therapist. I help people find balance all the time. It's part of what I do. And so I'm going to live by that. So I don't want people to think that I've ever advocated for not being positive. That is not what I'm saying at all. However, what I am advocating for is that you allow people to feel the feelings that they're feeling and offer assistance as needed or when asked, without trying to minimize what they're going through. So let's actually talk about one of my favorite tools for balanced positivity. It's the power of and, A-N-D, and. Because life is not black and white. It is a giant, messy, but somehow beautiful gray area. And you can actually feel two things at once. For example, you can be heartbroken and grateful for the lessons that a relationship taught you. You can be frustrated with your job and proud of how far you've come in your career. You can grieve a loss and find joy in the memories that you shared. And I think this is what people try to do whenever there's, for example, like a death, and they're trying to make other people feel better. They really want people to just move forward to finding the joy in the memories. But that's dismissing an entire piece of the emotional puzzle when dealing with grief. You are allowed to grieve. And that's the underlying point in all of this, in talking about toxic positivity and gratitude without guilt. You're allowed to feel the feelings, and you need to feel all of the feelings. So when we embrace the and, we are no longer forcing ourselves into one emotional lane. We are allowing the full spectrum of our experience, and that is where true growth happens. So the next time someone, or even that little voice in your head, says, just be positive, try saying, I can be positive and feel what I'm feeling. Boom, balance restored. Now, I want to try to talk a little bit about some practical gratitude practices that aren't cringy. I'm not going to ask you to look in the mirror and say, I am a kind and wonderful person over and over, unless that's something that you want to do. Have at it. So let's talk about gratitude. So gratitude has actually gotten a pretty bad rap lately, thanks to all the influencers out there shoving their highlight reels down our throats. But real gratitude, It is grounding. It is healing. It is not about pretending that your life is perfect. Instead, it's about finding the gems in the muck, right? So let's talk about some badass, no BS ways to practice gratitude. So how about gratitude with a twist? Instead of a generic gratitude list, write down one thing you're grateful for and why. An example could be, I'm grateful for my best friend because she always knows when I need a reality check and a laugh. See? Deeper, more meaningful, and way more empowering. And now, how about gratitude for the struggle? This one is next level, Hive Queens. Take something hard that you've been through and ask yourself, what did this teach me? How did I grow? Because when you're doing this, you are not minimizing the struggle. Instead, you are finding the resilience in it. That's actually what I did with my traumatic event. I was able to look at the situation for what it was, and I was able to learn a lot about myself. And I was actually able to be proud of who I am, and I was strengthened and empowered. And it may sound really weird to find strength and power within trauma, but it just emphasized for me that, you know what? I am as strong as I think I am. I am as badass as I believe myself to be. It was very, very validating for me. And so I don't want to say I'm grateful for the trauma, but I am grateful for some of the results of it. And then we need to talk about some micro gratitudes, the little things, right? This is where sometimes we find gratitude to be a little bit cheesy, but I promise you, this needs to be sprinkled in throughout your day when you're having a hard time feeling grateful for anything. Because let's be honest, sometimes life is really damn heavy, and finding big things to be grateful for feels absolutely impossible. And you know what? That's okay. Just start small. The smell of your coffee, the way your dog's tail wags when you walk in, or even just the fact that you made it through the day, that you were able to wake up and put 2 feet on the floor if you have 2 feet. I know this is where gratitude gets really cheesy, but sometimes that is what is needed, because sometimes we're going through so much garbage that we can't find something really big to be grateful for, and this is where we're on a slippery slope. This is the danger zone, right? When we're struggling to find something that we're grateful for and someone swoops in and is like, well, just be glad that you're not a starving child in Africa. That's where the toxic positivity comes in. We need that balance. We need to come up with this on our own. We don't need somebody being condescending to us and telling us what we need to be grateful for. We need to do the work ourselves. And I promise you, when you do that work, when you find even the little things in the midst of trauma or crisis, it can bring a sense of peace. Because honestly, sometimes we do need to focus on the little things, because sometimes that's all we've got. I recently bought, it's called the 5-Minute Journal, and it's just something you do every day. basically like a check-in at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And there's gratitude that is involved, a daily practice of gratitude. And because I'm so, this is where my OCD kind of flares up a little, and I'm not going to make apologies for it because I just find it easier to organize this way. I bought the journal and I'm going to start it on January 1st because starting it on, in the middle of a month for me is just a no-go. But to be very honest, being that I've been so incredibly sick lately, I can't put another thing on my plate. So it's part OCD, part healthy boundaries. I've recognized that putting one more thing on my plate right now is not a good idea. So my OCD says, oh, yay, good. We're going to push it off until January 1st. And you know what? I'm okay with it because I've overcome so many other things related to my OCD that I'm going to let this one go. So I would consider, if you want to increase gratitude in your life, go online and check out the 5-minute journal. Just Google it and it'll come up. It's something very small, very minor, but it cultivates the attitude of gratitude that we need to have. And I can't believe I just said that because it kind of makes me want to puke in my mouth a little bit. Attitude of gratitude. It sounds so minimizing. However, as is with most things in life, if you use your powers for good, it is a good thing. All right. So speaking of boundaries, because I can't get through an episode without talking about boundaries, let's talk about positivity boundaries, because yes, they are a thing. So let's get real. You are not responsible for keeping everyone around you positive. Let me say that louder for the people in the back. Ladies, you are not responsible for other people's vibes. And if you don't like a vibe of someone, just don't hang out with them. Okay, that probably sounds a little bit simplistic because we do feel some sort of obligation to be around some people, whether their vibes match ours or not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. You need to focus on you, not how others think or feel. That's on them. So setting boundaries around positivity really means protecting your energy. If someone is constantly dismissing your feelings with toxic positivity, it's okay to say, I appreciate your intention, but what I really need right now is someone to listen. See, that's not mean. That's not nasty. That is setting a healthy boundary around your feelings. And again, it's not your responsibility to make other people feel okay with how you want to handle a situation. Just be a decent human and enforce the boundary. And that is good. That's it. You're done. And it's also okay to step back from the people who expect you to be their constant cheerleader. You can be supportive without sacrificing your own emotional bandwidth. Because let me tell you, in today's day and age, I came from a time before technology, right? Like before the technology that we have today. And today, we can't escape. We are so connected all the time to everything. We have literally the world is in our palms when we're holding our phone. We are connected to the world through the internet. That's a lot of emotional bandwidth to be on all the time for everyone. So you need to start prioritizing yourself, setting yourself up for success, recognizing when you need to step back a little bit and to take care of yourself, because you can't pour from an empty pitcher. You need to be able to refresh yourself. And sometimes that is pushing back on people that expect you to be their constant source of light. And also, I would challenge you to think about it in this way. If you are constantly cleaning up other people's emotional messes and constantly trying to make people feel better, you are robbing them of the opportunity to learn how to self-soothe. You are robbing them of the opportunity to practice gratitude and learn resilience. So maybe thinking about it from that perspective will help change things a little bit. So, my listeners of the Hive, here's the takeaway. Positivity and gratitude are powerful when they are authentic. They're not about ignoring the hard stuff. They are about finding light in the darkness and strength in the struggle. And never forget, your feelings are valid, your struggles are real, and you, my badass listener, are capable of holding space for it all. The pain, the joy, the gratitude, and the growth. All right, my friends, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. This week, practice gratitude your way. Write down one thing you're grateful for every day, but make it meaningful. And remember to honor the and. You're not broken for feeling it all. You are human. As always, thank you so much for tuning in to the Hint Hive Amplifying Women's Voices. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, tag me on social media, and let me know how you're practicing gratitude this week. Head over to the Hint Hive Facebook group. Talk about gratitude there. Share your experiences. Get feedback from other listeners. Get ideas from other listeners. Until next time, keep shining, keep fighting, and keep amplifying your voice. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.